Well, a good friend of Turf Business TV joins us today, Scott Brooks, who's now with Natural Grass. Scott, good to see you, fella. It looks like you're in a hotel room out there.
Yeah, I am. We've just finished the returfing of the stadium in Bordeaux last night, so I'll be heading to the airport later.
So is that somewhere that you're preparing for the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, we're involved in a few venues this year. Obviously, the World Rugby want it to be a huge success, so there's been a big investment in the playing surfaces for this tournament, and we've been lucky enough to be involved in a few of the projects, to provide the surfaces.
So I think you're in Bordeaux. I think, are you in Nice as well?
Yeah, basically, this summer, this spring, I seem to have spent more time in the south of France than I did when I actually lived here. So I go to Nice very regularly. We have a very exciting new contract in Marseille with Olympique de Marseille, where we're constructing some pitches, but also managing the maintenance of the pitches there. And then in the last couple of weeks, we've done returfs in Toulouse and Bordeaux.
Okay, so plenty going on. Keeping you busy, obviously, this new role. Tell us a bit about your role now with Natural Grass. What are you planning to do?
A little bit of everything, actually, and that's really what I wanted. So I was very lucky that the guys gave me the opportunity to join them, and primarily it's to manage, like, as the company grows, like Natural Grass wants to become a turnkey solution for sports pitches, from project conception and the design right the way through to the construction and then maintaining them afterwards. And the maintenance part of the company is starting to grow. So I guess that's one of my primary objectives, is to help that grow and help it be successful. But then on top of that, we have these special projects like the returfs, like they're fairly new for the company. So we have our guy in Spain, Alberto, who's hugely experienced with that part of the business. But I help him out with that, and then I do a bit of international business development, so to speak. So
Right.
we're doing some work in Africa. We obviously have a small business in Belgium, and we're trying to branch into other markets. Obviously, like we're open to going anywhere to work, and then eventually, like we'll see if we can do some work in the UK as well.
Okay, I mean, you've set up Natural Grass UK, I believe, haven't you?
Yeah, so we set up Natural Grass UK, which obviously, I'm the general manager of, and at the moment I have one employee as Dean Gillespie, who we all know and love. And I guess eventually, as we get work and projects, that business will grow slowly. I hope.
So that's something that's growing and not quite in the background, but running alongside all of the international work. Is it still mostly football for you, Scott?
Well, it's sports pitches, as in your traditional winter sports pitches. So football and rugby. Natural Grass have done some projects at rugby grounds this year, but primarily football, yes.
Okay, and I know from talking to you over the years, you like a project. Is that the bit that's firing you up at the moment, those bigger projects?
Yeah, it is. In the life of a groundsman, maybe they get one huge project in their career. They build one amazing training facility. Off the top of my head, in recent years, I can think of Spurs, Leicester, Liverpool, all incredible facilities. And really, the groundsman does that job, and then he's kind of like, right, what next? And he's he's still there, and then he has to start maintaining this new facility. Whereas the exciting bit is that conception of the projects and seeing a blank canvas turn into something incredible that professional athletes can thrive on every day. And I get to have a hand in a couple of those a year. with the projects that we do as a company. So I'm not the construction manager. I'm not the guy who's leading these projects, but I have an input into what the makeup of the profile of that pitch should look like. What's the space that we need around the pitches for access and all those various things that get overlooked by an architect. That we get to put them right the first time round from the experience that we have. So yeah, I like the project.
So you're getting a couple of those a year, whereas most groundsmen, if they're lucky, get one in a career, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. And I would love to build a huge training facility and see it from start to finish. I have a little dabble in Nice, and maybe we'll go again in Nice, and it will be something I want to be heavily involved in. But this market over here is growing rapidly, so everyone's expanding their training facilities, and fortunately at the moment they all want us to be involved in it. So we have a good chance of doing some of these projects.
So when it comes to working with somebody on a training ground project and a new development, at what stage do you start the planning with them? I mean, do they come to you and say this is what we want, or do you actually get involved from the very start and say more a bit of this is what I think you need?
No, it's more a case of they have an idea of what they want, and it might be as simple as we want 3 pitches, 3 hybrid pitches, and that's pretty much it. We've got a budget of 5 million. What can we do? And you go and have a look, and you go, well, maybe you might need to consider this. Maybe you might need to have a look at that. You're not going to get good value for money if you do it this way, and it's a normal consultation where you're guiding them through and trying to help them make good decisions. And so I've seen it many times, especially in France, where there's been some poor decisions made in terms of the planning, and you end up having to come back around 2 or 3 years later and retrofit things that you should have done in the first place. And I think Natural Grass have seen that a lot and recognised that it's not a good way to work. And whenever I've done a project in the past, I'm always got one eye on the future, thinking right, I don't want to come back and do this again. So let's do it right now.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that the market is buoyant there in France. Is that just post-COVID, or is there something else that's going on out there that's causing investment to be made?
Well, the French football is growing anyway. Like it was, I'm not so, it'd be amiss to say it was in the dark ages a little bit, but 10 years ago they were spending maybe 400k on a complete football pitch construction. So you're not getting hybrid, you're not getting good drainage, you're not getting good irrigation, and like it's just been a learning over the years and educating the guys in the football clubs that you need to provide something a little bit better. So I wouldn't say it's a case of there's tons of investment because they've got Rugby World Cup and they've got the Olympics next year, and they've had the Euros in recent years and stuff like that. It's more a case of the market was just ready for the next step in terms of what things look like, and how can we be more sustainable and only make this investment once. Because what was happening a lot is they were like, okay, we'll spend 400k on a pitch, and it seemed like a good investment, and then maybe they returf that pitch twice a year because it wasn't fit for purpose. And it was just about showing them, okay, guys, like you've spent 400k, but you've actually ended up spending 1 million, and what have you got for it? It's something that you need to replace completely in 5 years because you can't reuse any of it. It's not fit for purpose. So how about you invest the right amount of money today and have something that's good for 10 years? Longer
term, that should show savings benefits of not just in sustainability, but cash, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, they're starting to see that here. So, there was a boom of hybrid pitches in France between 2016 2020. There's probably 45 50 pitches done, but I imagine there's been that many done again in the preceding 3 years, but in the right way.
Okay. Rugby's a big sport out there. I mean, where does rugby and football sit in terms of the hearts of the French nation, do you think?
I think they're a rugby nation.
They're a rugby nation. So does that mean there's a lot of multi-use stadiums where football and rugby are played on the same surface?
What you tend to find is that the rugby stadiums are smaller because there isn't as much money in rugby as there is in football. It's just the way it is with the TV deals and the sponsorship and everything. But you have some really nice little rugby stadiums that sort of 5,000 to 15,000. Some of them are synthetic, unfortunately, but they're multi-use or indoor even. But then when to give you an example, in Marseille this year, there'll be obviously the Rugby World Cup, there'll be a Six Nations game, there'll be the top 14 rugby. I think it's having more games than normal because the Stade de France is undergoing a renovation. And then, for example, here in Bordeaux, they might host 1 or 2 top 14 games a year, like when it's the big games. So not so much. They're not doing dual code like they're doing at Bristol City or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Scott, where do you see things moving over the next few years in terms of the technology? Are we kind of at the peak, or is there still more stuff coming through in terms of the technology behind the surfaces? I'm thinking in the main.
I think we're at like a critical point now where we have grow light technology and UV technology and all the toys to help you have better grass. And agronomically, we're at a very good point, but we're going to get to the point where waters are going to become an issue and water conservation. So I think the technology is going to be moving towards systems that can help you use less water and stuff like that. So we're now coming away from the traditional toys that groundsmen love to play with, like data collection and everything and pitch testing and whatnot, and it's going to become more about how can I minimize the amount of water I put on my playing surface this year.
Scott, you're talking there about conservation of water and putting less on the pitches. What part can construction play in that?
The construction's vital, right? Obviously, you have fertilizers that reduce the amount of scorch and stuff and the amount of salts in the soil and all these things that can maybe minimize the amount of water you use, like your wetting agents and stuff like that. But actually, like, you've got a few thousand tons of sand there that can either hold water or it can drain really fast. So like we need to find a system where we can sort of retain the moisture in the root zone for as long as possible. And maybe it means that we have to go a bit more old school in the fact that we have put a bit more organic in the pitches. But then what does that mean 5 years down the line? Or do we have systems like Subair that can maybe we can pull water out, but also if you're pushing air up, then you're going to be suspending some sort of moisture there. So, and then there's other systems that are being developed on the market that work with capillary action and stuff like that for retaining moisture. And in the same way that we catch water with Permavoid and stuff like that, it's just what can we do to minimize water usage or recycle water to use it again.
Sustainability, water usage, and climate change is not going away at all, obviously. Are those people in the French market that you're dealing with, do you think ahead of the curve to the UK, or do you think there's not much difference? Where do you think we're sitting in terms of our approach to that particular issue?
Well, it could be a benefit of Brexit in that perhaps the same rules don't apply in the UK as they do in the EU. And in the EU, they're becoming very strict on the use of fungicide usage and water restrictions, and the attitude over on the continent is not about having, you know, beautiful playing surfaces. It's about, you know, saving the planet to a certain extent. You know, especially in France and Benelux, I see it a lot, where, you know, everything's very restricted. And in terms of water, you know, obviously, you know, I'm doing some work in Nice still, and we can't water the pitches between 8 in the morning and 8 in the evening. You know, we have to water overnight. And obviously, as a groundsman, and like, you know, you'll know that that's not the best time to be watering your pitch. And then some of the pitches are being constructed with some, you know, very poor irrigation systems where you have to put 4 millimeters of water on your pitch. You have to start watering at like 1 o'clock in the morning for it to finish at 8. And obviously that brings problems as well, because, you know, you just can't get the amount of water that you want on, and you're putting the water on at completely the wrong time. You know, I wasn't lucky, like I was thinking about it a lot, you know, when I was in Nice, that I wanted to be able to get the water exactly where I needed it very quickly. So he installed water tanks and pump sets and enlarged the capacity of, you know, around the pitch. So, you know, I can water a pitch in, you know, 4 millimeters in Nice in half an hour. So you know, I can put the water on at 6 o'clock in the morning and be ready for the day, and it's at the right time of the day. But there's a lot of investment to be made at other places in the country if they're going to get to that level.
Okay, so essentially, in terms of climate change and saving the planet, you think the UK is probably behind, but in terms of, you know, looking after the pitches, we've got more at our disposal, shall we say?
Yeah, it's exactly that. The infrastructure is a lot better in the UK because the investment's there. So when the time comes and you know, the government says, okay, right, we really need to start making a push to save this planet because we're late to the party, like English, you know, football clubs, rugby clubs, whatever, will be able to make the move quicker. And that's possibly why over here, you know, they've started it a few years ago, but they've given people 5 or 6 years to get up to speed and get to where they need to, because they know the investment's not there.
Okay. So that might then relate back to why there's, you know, a buoyant market at the moment because of that drive towards sustainability, yeah?
I'd like to think so. You know, I'm not an expert on the market out here. Like, the market is driven by the cities and what money the cities allocate to sport each year.
Right.
Some weeks, some years, it's very good. Other years they have other priorities, obviously. So as a result, you know, you might do a project in Bordeaux, like at the football club. This stadium was built nearly 10 years ago now, and then you probably don't see a lot of investment for the next 10 years because they have other priorities. So, you know, it tends to be sporadic, and I guess there's municipalities over here that prioritize sport, and you'll see, you know, regular investment. It's not, you know, in the UK, it tends to be privately owned. So, you know, it's on the owners, the shareholders, the board, like whoever's making the decisions within the, you know, the clubs can decide to knock a stand down and build a bigger one, decide to, you know, extend their training ground. But over here, it's driven by the cities, and, you know, the cities run the stadiums, maybe operated by a, you know, a management company, but, you know, the clubs have very little say over what pitch they're going to play on this year. You know, if they want to build their training ground, you know, extend it, it's probably going to take a few years because it has to go through a lot of public consultation to get there.
With what you've got going on, I mean, I know you're in a hotel room at the moment and you've got a flight to catch. Where are you off to next?
Home.
Home, all right, okay. So, and how long are you going to be at home, and then when's the next big project that you're going to go and get your teeth into?
I've got a few days at home, and then I'll spend the next couple of weeks between Nice and Marseille. I've got a couple of renovations to do at the training ground in Nice. As the temperatures start to cool down a little bit at the end of August. It's the right time for us to renovate the pitches that we didn't renovate in the start of summer because
Sure.
they're pretty much dead. You'll find
Okay.
you know, it works a bit differently. Like in the UK, you know, the pitches are always immaculate. But you know, you renovate at the right time of year, and you know, you have the one grass to play with, and you know, you don't have to worry too much about what goes on in spring, summer, and autumn. You just have to get yourself through the winter. Whereas, you know, down in a climate like Nice, you might only have 4 weeks at the end of the season to renovate the pitches, and the grasses that you use down in the south of France are different to the grasses you use in the UK. So whereas you can get away with, you know, 4, 5, 6 weeks in the UK, you need 9, 10, 11 weeks down here. So there's always a pitch that's sacrificial. There's always one where it's like, well, that's not going to get a renovation because we need a pitch ready for the players when they come back.
Right.
But it's ryegrass because we overseed for the winter here because the summer grasses don't perform very well. So you go into spring and you have an amazing ryegrass pitch, and all the players are like loving it. And then they come back for the first week of pre-season, and it's like incredible. And then 10 days later, you sort of get into mid-July, and it starts to go downhill. It gets diseases like that you've never seen before that, you know, seem to be on steroids. And by the time you get to the middle of August, like, you're lucky if you've got that pitch. But, you know, with the right communication to the club that they're aware, they'd rather have a pitch that they come back for pre-season on than not have a pitch at all, because sometimes the other pitches that have been renovated are not quite ready. And then we wait for it to cool down and we renovate. So the first one's happening next week, and the second one the week after.
Well, enjoy your few days at home in between all those renovations. It'll probably be nice for you to kind of put your feet out for a bit, but I'm not sure that'll happen. Great to catch up with you, Scott. Hopefully see you real soon, and take care, fella.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.